administrative jobs, the legal sphere, architecture, management, and more. At the same time, we must acknowledge that AI is beneficial for many sectors. Experts predict a 7% increase in global GDP thanks to it. For example, some areas of science and medicine are already taking advantage of AI, developing new medicines and treating some diseases. For the time being, countries are trying to pass special AI-related legislation. It's supposed to classify AI into 4 risk-based categories, deal with fakes, and make companies register their algorithms with regulators.
Now, sure, science and technology will continue to evolve, but there are some inventions we just have to forget about. Not because we don't have the resources for them, but simply because they are physically impossible. On that note, let's talk about human teleportation, a cool concept you may have seen in the movies. Quantum teleportation has been demonstrated in labs, where scientists have managed to create a connection between entangled photons over long distances. But let's be real, it's a far cry from teleporting an entire human being. Plus, the teleportation in the Star Trek universe, for instance, involves something called destructive copying, which means the original person gets obliterated. Ouch. So even if teleportation were somehow possible, it would be basically like stepping into an annihilation machine. On top of that, the sheer physical and energy requirements for teleportation are mind-boggling. Just imagine a system that can instantly scan, record, and transmit every single bit of information that makes up a human body. And then, it has to compile that person at the destination without even slightly messing up a single molecule. It's a whole lot easier to send someone a PDF. Are way beyond our current capabilities. Maybe someday in the future, but for now, teleporting ourselves from one place to another remains firmly in the realm of science fiction. And so, mass transportation needn't be worried about becoming obsolete. Human teleportation isn't the only thing on our impossible things list. Let's dive into the concept of time travel too. Thanks to the genius of Albert Einstein, we've come to realize that time travel is actually a thing, at least technically. Einstein's theories proposed the existence of these nifty things called wormholes, which could connect different parts of space and time. In other words, they might just be the key to creating a legit time machine. Now, here comes the tricky part. According to some super smart physicists, if we ever want to build a time machine, we'd have to figure out a way to harness the energy of an entire star or a massive black hole. And that's not all. There's an even bigger challenge. We'd also need to stabilize the wormhole and make sure that the entrance, or the place where we step into the wormhole, stays open for our return trip. Because, let's face it, nobody wants to go back in time only to find themselves stuck there forever. Unless you could buy Apple stock right at the beginning. Imagine this. We've all seen those cool spaceships in movies that have these awesome protective layers, right? Well, it's not completely out of the question that someday our spaceships could have a similar setup. They could be surrounded by a special layer made of charged plasma or a super strong electromagnetic force. Now here's where things get a bit tricky. When it comes to personal force fields, it's a whole different story. You see, a force field's main job is to either soak up or bounce back a whole lot of energy coming at it. In order to do that, it has to push out with an equal or even stronger force to stop the energy from getting through. Now, if we're talking about a force field just for one person, things get a bit more complicated. The only cosmic force that could potentially work for a personal force field is electromagnetism. But here's the thing. Electromagnetic force only works on charged objects. And guess what? Humans are electrically neutral, which means we don't have a charge to play with. So even if we somehow manage to create a gadget that could envelop a person in a mighty force field, there's no guarantee that the person inside wouldn't get zapped. Making the force field work in all directions would be a real challenge. So, while it's a super cool idea to have our own personal force fields, it's not as easy as it sounds. Physics and our electrically neutral bodies make it quite the uphill battle. Meanwhile, will we ever be able to upload our minds into supercomputers? Well, not really. Because here's the thing, we can't transfer our consciousness. Most methods of uploading focus on copying our brain's basic information onto a digital platform. But what happens